Appreciate it, Frater Greg. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with all of you today. It's a great opportunity to share some thoughts with you. Hopefully, impart some words of wisdom as we look at the outlook of Tau Kappa Epsilon in the weeks and months ahead. I want to send some thoughts and prayers to fraters who are in Texas. They've had a difficult time in the last week or so, and I just wanted to let you know we're thinking about you and we're keeping you close. Since we can't be together around an actual triangle today, but we are together in a virtual format, imagine this to be a virtual triangle. I'd like to use this opportunity to deliver a bit of a state of the fraternity, a similar message that we might be hearing if we were around the actual triangle in ritual. We're nearly a year into a global pandemic, public health crisis that has upended just about everything, including higher education. The disruption, some might even say transformation, of the ways in which colleges and universities have responded to the pandemic has created unprecedented headwinds for Tau Kappa Epsilon and the rest of the Greek world. Each institution of higher education has responded differently to the pandemic. Some are fully open, some are fully remote, others are a blend. All of these models in their totality have impacted our business model. Rush doesn't quite operate as it did in pre-COVID days. RLCs, at least in their traditional format, didn't happen this year. A significant part of our membership model is predicated on our ability to interact with each other in person and in meaningful ways. Our ability to interact has been relegated to virtual opportunities like this. And somehow, long before anyone could imagine the rise of virtual platforms, one of our national founders, Frater William Wilson, codified into the Declaration of Principles this unchanging, immutable observation. Man is a social being. Our whole structure evidences the absolute interdependence of man. Reclusiveness is dwarfing to man's best abilities. Frequent contact with our fellow fraters is necessary to symmetrical development. In the context of life right now, I suspect we're looking for more frequent contact with our fellow fraters. Somehow contact through a virtual platform doesn't seem to cut it. As a Grand Prytanis of Tau Kappa Epsilon, I'm only a temporary occupant of this office. The Venerable Grand Prytanis has a solemn responsibility to safeguard the legacy and the future of TKE, and I'm very mindful of the obligation that was entrusted to me by the Grand Chapter. This is the Grand Prytanis medallion. The names of the men who were Grand Prytanis before me are inscribed on the back. It's kind of tiny, you can't see through the camera, but they're there. As much as it's a symbol of the office I hold, it's also a reminder to me that I'm part of something much larger than myself. Some of my predecessors were faced with significant threats to the survival of Tau Kappa Epsilon. Frater R.C. Williams became Grand Prytanis in 1944 during the Second World War, and the fraternity had only 11 chapters and only about 100 collegiate members of TKE on college campuses across North America. Like the generation of TEEKs in the 1940s, we too are facing an existential threat. Recruitment is the lifeblood of any membership organization, and our ability to recruit new fraters and support them has been impacted by the global pandemic. But we've adapted, and we continue to adapt, and we continue to rise to meet the challenges of the moment, just as those 11 chapters did in 1944. And I'd argue that as challenging as this moment in time is, we are meeting the moment with greater resources. For one thing, we have significantly more than 11 chapters and 100 undergraduates. There is strength in numbers. We're more than 240,000 fraters strong. Over the last 122 years, Tau Kappa Epsilon has faithfully lived its mission to aid men in their mental, moral, and social development. Paradoxically, ironically, at this moment in time, Tau Kappa Epsilon needs the aid of its men. In this moment in time, TEEK needs its members. And countless teaks have been heeding the call to help us confront the headwinds of the pandemic and advance the cause of social justice. We're adapting. We're lending our support. Thousands of frauders have engaged with teak in new ways or engaged with teak for the first time in decades. We're all rising to meet the moment. Some chapters broke recruitment records this past year in spite of the pandemic. More than 1,100 teaks have made their first gift to Life Loyal Teak, totaling nearly $130,000 to support educational programming. I'm profoundly grateful for their generosity. I sent a personal letter to each of them, thanking them for their support of teak. More than 60 frauders have volunteered to serve on teak's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I've been attending many of the meetings of the committees and subcommittees, and I'm inspired by the strong commitment of these frauders to help teak live our mission more fully. The voices of disenfranchised and marginalized teaks inspired us to deepen our commitment to social justice and inclusion and greater belonging. Alumni volunteers and collegiate members have been more creative and more productive, making virtual visits to chapters across Teak Nation. The professional staff is in overdrive. We had more than 1,900 frauders participate in this virtual regional leadership conference. We're engaging more members than ever before. Virtual programming continues to expand without compromising the high quality that our members rightfully expect. We're delivering chapter and member services in new ways to more people, albeit a little differently. Our founders would be proud. How could they not be? Yet we need to keep striving and evolving and achieving, because we're not out of this yet. We've come too far to falter, and failure is not part of any fabric of Tau Kappa Epsilon. Ingrained in the fiber of every member is the teak spirit, a spirit typical of our fraternity, a spirit that does not shrink from sacrifice, that knows no defeat, a spirit indomitable. Those words cited from Frater Wallace Macaulay's 1907 Opportunity Out of Defeat speech are as relevant today as ever. We're all in this together. As the Grand Prytanis of Tau Kappa Epsilon, in the name of both our legacy and our future, I'm asking for your help. Teak needs all hands on deck. Teak needs your spirit indomitable. As we head into the spring semester, get out there and recruit and recruit and recruit some more. Live our mission to aid men in their mental, moral, and social development for life. Let the example of your life draw others to you. Let the tenor of your daily life exemplify love, charity, and esteem. If you're in a position to support Teak with a financial gift during this difficult time, Teak needs your treasure. Every dollar matters and every dollar makes a difference. A donation to Life Loyal Teak through the Teak Foundation will underwrite continued educational programming for undergraduate and alumni frauders in the weeks and months ahead. Teak is facing an operating deficit this year caused by the pandemic. A combination of greater operational efficiency, increased membership, and donations to Tau Kappa Epsilon will make us whole, and we're on track. If past is prologue, we know how this is going to end. History has shown that Teaks are undeterred and undaunted by threats to the fraternity. We rally. Just after the end of World War II, several dormant Teak chapters had restarted, increasing our active chapters across Teak Nation to 19. Nearly 80 years ago, the Teak Loyalty Fund was created. The Loyalty Fund is a predecessor of Life Loyal Teak today. And at the time, Teak alumni were asked to contribute $3. That effort raised nearly $30,000, which is more than $430,000 in today's dollars when we adjust for inflation. $430,000 would erase our operating deficit and lay the groundwork to begin the next academic year in a stronger position. The current pandemic is presenting an existential challenge to the future of TKE, conceivably in ways we have not seen since World War II, or perhaps ever. History will be the judge of that, and of the decisions and actions we take now to keep Tau Kappa Epsilon meaningful and lasting for this and future generations. Based on what I'm witnessing, however, I'm certain that future generations of Teeks will read about this challenging time in a future edition of the Teak Guide, much like we can read about teak in the World War II era. In a special way, I want to express gratitude from the Venerable Grand Prytanis to our Chief Executive Officer, Frater Donnie Aldrich, for his leadership, for his fortitude, for his vision, his energy, and his moral compass. As much as we're all in this together, the challenges we're facing begin and end on his desk. They hit his desk before they hit mine. During the Second World War, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, in giving inspiration to the British people, said that fear is a reaction, courage is a decision. As Teeks, we continue to demonstrate courage and resolve in these unsettling times. We draw strength from our enduring heritage, and we have a strong commitment to the magnificent obsession. Love, charity, and esteem, and not for wealth, rank, and honor, but for personal worth and character, are timeless and lasting values. With the wisdom of our founders and the beacon of mission to light the way, the best days of Tau Kappa Epsilon are ahead. Yours in the bond, Fraters, I love the fraternity.